Have you ever wondered about the paths you didn't take? What if all those things we didn't do, the lives we chose not to live, what if they were just as real as the life we're living now? Well, this explainer dives into a story that takes that question and makes it literal. We're talking about a world where consciousness is fading, a city is turning to glass, and one architect is given a truly impossible job. The story kicks off with this haunting line. Just try to picture it, a slow, quiet betrayal, happening on a molecular level. Stone, brick, all of it just losing its solidity, its privacy. It's like mystery itself is evaporating from the world, and everything that was once hidden is becoming just painfully, blindingly clear. And you see, this whole city turning to glass, it's really just a giant metaphor for what's happening inside people's heads. The story asks this really profound question. What happens to the human mind when there's nothing left to figure out? When there's no more doubt, no more questions? Does consciousness just kind of stop? Okay, so let's get into our first section, a city turning to glass. This is where we set the scene of this strange crisis of transparency, and where an architect gets a commission that is, frankly, bizarre. So the folks in charge, they're called the Directorate, have decided that humanity has pretty much run out of ideas. They believe we've reached the end of the line for consciousness, that we're just recycling the same old thoughts. So they hire an architect, Marius to build a monument to the very last original thought humanity will ever have. Wild, right? And the environment itself really reflects this bleak state of mind. As the walls go clear, the shadows have nowhere to hide, so they just pool on the ground like spilled ink, darker and heavier than before. The story calls it the weight of seeing, this awful feeling when you can't get any relief from total, absolute visibility. So how do you even begin a project like this? Well, Marius isn't given blueprints or plans. He's given this incredibly cryptic three-word instruction. Not a command to create something, but to uncreate, to build with what isn't there. And this right here is the key to the whole story, which brings us to section 2, building with absence. Okay, so how on earth do you do that? Here's where we get into Marius's completely radical methods. This guy is not just an architect, he's basically an engineer of nothingness. His first technique is something called the unbuild. And it's exactly what it sounds like. Instead of adding stones, he goes to these old existing cathedrals and starts carefully removing them. He has this theory that by taking away just the right pieces, he can free the trapped intentions, the old prayers, from inside the walls, making the whole thing breathe, making it more honest. Now, this is where things get really mind-bending. Marius argues that these empty spaces he creates, these voids, if you arrange them in just the right way, can actually support a structure better than solid stone ever could. Think about that. Absence itself becomes the main structural support. Okay, so if you're going to build with empty space, what do you use for mortar? What holds it all together? The answer is unspent light. This is probably the most fascinating idea in the story. It's a substance literally made of crystallized possibility. Every plan that was never followed, every word that was never spoken, every life that was never lived. So you start to see Marius isn't really building a physical thing at all. He's trying to build a place where you can stand in the quiet pause between two thoughts, or in the silence between words. He calls it a cathedral of intervals, a structure made entirely of the gaps, held together by everything that could have been. This is where the whole story pivots. A new character arrives on the scene, and she ends up revealing the true and honestly subversive purpose of Marius's project. The Directorate sends a surveyor, a woman named Agneta, to measure and document the work. But Agneta has a secret. She's also starting to turn to glass. Her own body is losing its opacity, which means she herself is becoming a person who exists between states, not quite here, not quite gone. And then Marius reveals the unbelievable truth to her. The monument he's building, it's a perfect negative image of Agneta's own life. It's built from all of her unfulfilled dreams, her unmade choices. She isn't just there to document the structure, she is the structure, a living, breathing interval. And that is the architect's great betrayal. You see, the Directorate hired him to build a tombstone for consciousness, a monument to certainty. But secretly, Marius was building the exact opposite. He was building an escape hatch, a doorway back into the mystery and potential that the world had lost. Faced with this revelation, what does Agneta do? She makes a choice. She agrees to literally become a part of the architecture, to be the living hinge between what is and what might have been. She completes the monument not with stone, but with her own being.
Section 4, Cathedral of Unlived Lives. So what happens now? What is the actual impact of this completed structure? What does a building made of nothing and inhabited by a person who is also an idea, what does it do?
Well, its true purpose is finally revealed. It's not a museum for a dead idea. It's a theater for potential. When people walk inside, they don't see a monument. They see themselves. Or rather, all the different selves they could have been.
And the effect is profoundly personal. A baker sees, with perfect clarity, the beautiful masterpiece she always dreamed of but never baked. A magistrate is forced to witness the trial where he made the just verdict he failed to give in real life. A grieving mother gets to see the full, happy life of the child she lost. It's a confrontation with the tangible reality of your other lives. And that's the final incredible point the structure makes. It proves that possibility has weight. It has the same truth as what actually happened. The lives we don't choose aren't just daydreams. They're real, parallel truths that exist forever in this architecture of unspent life. This last quote just sums it all up perfectly. Marius didn't build a tomb, he built a stage. He created a space where every potential version of ourselves gets to have its moment, to be seen and to be honored. And so the story leaves us with this final, haunting question. Because it's not really about a glass city or a mysterious architect, is it? It's a mirror. It forces you to ask yourself about the weight and the reality of your own unspent light. What possibilities have you left in the gaps? And what would it mean to know, for a fact, that they're just as real as the life you're living right now?